9, 8.
You're watching
7,
Experience Comic Culture and Sales.
5,
Streaming live daily to
4,
Facebook, YouTube,
3,
Twitch, and Twitter.
2, 1.
Yay!
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
I made it.
For those of you who don't know, what during the intro, I was working on my Miss Jen impression because she was having trouble getting into the studio, and I was going to review the books she read, without having read them. So
I was making magic happen. Even though I don't understand tech, I made tech work for me.
Brother,
as someone who's about to tear his tech apart to transport it to a whole other city and just make it work there, just know it appreciates you.
Brother, we're too low energy to meet Miss Jen.
What?
Oh, every review was going to be. Every review was going to be. I don't normally read DC stuff, but I really liked it.
It's pretty spot on.
It's exactly like me.
It's a gift. It's a gift. So let's get into it.
Ultra Mega. Okay, I'm gonna be full disclosure here. I think I read number 1 way back when it released. So if you're thinking to yourself, number 5 Ultra Mega, I thought this series wasn't running anymore. It's not just you. It took a long hiatus, and here's this new, like, woo, here we are again. I'm not gonna lie one little bit. I think, okay, this is what I know. I've never been high, but I might have experienced what it's like reading this issue, because what the heck? It's so crazy.
Miss Jen, if you get on TikTok and go to the official Nutter Butter TikTok account, you'll understand what it's like to be on mushrooms.
Okay, so this is what I got out of the crazy stuff that's happening in this book. I think that the not kaiju looking creatures are tied somehow to the less kaiju looking humanoid creatures in some way. And that the one boy looking guy, whose name I've forgotten now, can make this really cool Ultra Mega dude that's on the front cover. But he also has like an Ultra Mega seed inside of him, which makes him look pregnant, and he's hiding it. But also every other creature in this entire series looks so trippy that I can't even explain. It's like you just took your most lucid dream that involved kaijus that your brain makes up when it's asleep and gave you a kind of a story, and this is what you get. So if you read the early issues, you probably won't have any trouble with this. It probably has some information that's super key, but the art is really good. So I didn't mind reading it because I was just like, well, what crazy creature am I going to see on this next page? So if you wanted to see the most tripped out version is possible of Mothra and or Mothra's like larval form and or any other kaiju, it's in this book. It's nuts.
I'm not high, but Miss Jen's review of that book made me feel like I need to chew on some peppercorns.
Oh, no.
Oh, Jim Henson's Labyrinth. Oh, so if you love Labyrinth, which I don't know of too many people who didn't, yeah, that tracks. That tracks.
It was scary. I need to watch it as an adult.
You'll love this. It's if you don't know the story, it's basically a young Jennifer Connelly is asked to watch her baby brother, and she's like 15 or so. So obviously she hates that because at that age, most teenagers hate everything. So she decides she's going to ask the Goblin King from her story to come and take her brother away, to free her. And cue David Bowie. And he does just that. And she immediately regrets it. She regrets it. She wants him back. Well, he tells her, well, you have 13 hours to make it through this labyrinth, hence the title, to get to the castle at the end of the Goblin City. So this, y'all, I loved this movie as a kid. I loved it. I was all about anything Jim Henson and was devastated when he passed. I was like 8 years old, I think, 7 or 8, just devastated. Watched any and all Jim Henson stuff. Now, I will tell you that this feels like a shot for shot from the movie. And I don't think they're going to venture too far from the movie. But again, this is only issue 1, so you don't know. We don't know what they got planned. This, though, this would be a definite pickup from me. It's Labyrinth. It's awesome.
I do have to say that every 12-year-old girl that watched this film was very, very deeply messed up. As a grown man, was the attractive foil for the 16-year-old girl. And we were like, what the heck are we supposed to be feeling now? We're very confused. He's the bad guy, but also hot. We don't know what to do.
The Awakening.
The Awakening, that's right.
Shout out to Critical Entertainment, Eddie, Castle, Make Two, Barlord, Canadian Survivalist. Everybody who's shown up in the chat. Everybody over on Instagram. What's up? Oh, great. Beyond the Pale. So I think I missed issue 3. But I don't remember because, again, these books don't come out fast enough for my ADHD to keep remembering. But I will tell you this. Holy crap, is this a good end to a book? So much blood. And the only thing there's more of than blood is napalm.
What?
There's a lot of napalm in this book. If you remember from the early issues when we were reviewing them, this is set, kind of in a Full Metal Jacket, kind of platoonish Vietnam setting during the Vietnam War. And we find out that this group of military guys are worshiping this sort of otherworldly deity that they found in the jungles of Vietnam. They're doing human sacrifices. They're doing all these things. You jump into issue 4 and it is literally the downside of the mountain. Like it plateaued in the last issue and we are careening out of control down a mountain, bringing it all to the end. This book is just an absolute, this issue is an absolute action sequence from top to bottom. But what's cool about it that brings it down and just makes it not so insane is that it still keeps the track of our main character is writing a letter to her dead brother who died in Vietnam. So she's still writing this letter. So there's this moments of clarity where she is explaining what is happening and how she sees it and what's going on, where you could take a minute and go, okay, why all of a sudden, I thought there was just one dragon. Why are there 3 dragons? And why are the dragons named after weird Norse mythology bad guys? I don't understand. This is Vietnam. But she's kind of explaining it and keeping you centered when it would be really easy to careen out of control one way or the other. And so this works really well as a last issue, assuming it's the last issue. It is 4 of 4, but they left it in such a way that they could do another series. So we'll see. Oh, that's right. I'm controlling the PowerPoint. Sorry, Jay. You're going to have to remind me several times, Jay, that I'm in charge tonight.
All right. Daniel Warren Johnson has been on everyone's hearts recently because he's been killing it on his big book, Transformers. Everyone's been trying to figure out all his other cool things to partake of. This is a new book called The Moon is Following Us. I'm going to tell you guys that probably if you read it like I did, the first probably 3/4 of the book, you're like going, man, I don't know if this is my jam. This is kind of whatever. The whole first part of the book kind of feels like some kind of sci-fi D&D campaign that someone's telling you about. And you're like going, you zoned out 3 minutes in and you're like, okay, I can't wait to get into this, whatever you're telling me. Because I wasn't part of the campaign and that makes me anger that I didn't get to have fun and I don't understand what's going on. But I will tell you, when you get to that 3/4 mark and you realize what has been going on, you're going to be like, what? That's super cool. So I will just tell you, stay the course. It's real cool. But you got to get there. You will have those moments, I swear. You're like, ah.
Miss Jen, did you know that this is Riley Rossimo's first full book in 10 years?
What?
Yep.
I did not know that. How is that possible?
Yeah, before it's, he was doing covers or he would do 2 issues and somebody else would do 2 issues. His first full book in 10 years.
That's great.
Something like that.
Okay. Now, this is the Edwin Gallman cover. Yep.
I got to tell you,
the other one.
I was in a local comic shop today, talking to somebody about this book, and they kept calling it Cheetara.
Are you kidding me?
And I wanted to put my head through a wall. Go ahead.
Cheetara or Cheetara. Real quick before I get started.
It's worse. Oh no!
No, I don't call it that. That's just what I've heard.
Yeah, but you shouldn't have said that.
Well,
punishment
for anyone new watching, just in case. There's our names, just in case. All right. So, man, this is such a good book, yo. This is such a good book. So we get to see a young Lion-O, and it's Chitara's having these weird visions where she sees Lion-O hurt, but nothing's happening to him. And then she sees something strange on a radar, and people are trying to tell her that it's just like space debris. But she's like, no, I think something's coming to Thundera. I think something bad's about to happen. And we find out she's not wrong. This is one of those series where I don't want to go too deep into the story because I want people to experience this. This series is great, and it doesn't force itself into the main story. It very much is organic and complements the main story. There's a lot of times when people do spinoffs, they're really trying to force you to be like, hey, remember, this is in this universe. This goes with this book. This one doesn't. It feels very, very good. And like I said, it only complements the main story. If you're digging Thundercats, you definitely should be picking up Chitara. You really should.
Hey, y'all, JD's in the chat.
I know, and he got banned.
What?
For his Kitara joke.
For Kitara.
Yeah, he got a 5-minute timeout, as did the Casio keyboard company.
Nope.
Okay, guys. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Damian Connolly, like on a molecular level.
Tell us where we would know his stuff.
I know him primarily from the indie circuit and writing ridiculously weird things.
Okay.
In fact, I don't know how much comics work Damian has done like this, but I know him like from novels and other kinds of weirdness. This book is super messed up and I love it. It's a story of a girl who is, by the way, this is an anthology series. So issue 2 has nothing to do with issue 1, will likely have nothing to do with issue 3. It really reminds me of some of the Piranha Press stuff that used to come out in this similar vibe. So this is about a girl who doesn't really have any friends, but is really into bugs. And one day, while out looking for bugs, something unspeakable almost happens until she's saved by this weird loner drifter old guy who lives in the woods. The weird loner drifter old guy becomes her friend because she reminds him of his daughter. He was part of You Promised Me Darkness. It's true, Sean. Anyway, a series of events happen, and old crazy loner drifter guy goes to prison. She goes off into the city, and they kind of abandon this path they're on. And then through a circuitous route, they both wind up coming back together and essentially becoming like a found family for each other. But the end of the book tends to lend itself to something slightly more supernatural. And having to do with like or beetles, like the big rhinoceros beetles and things. Yeah, and how that the beetle and the old man and things may not be all they are perceived to be. Like I said, without spoiling the whole plot of the book, it's hard to explain damaged people. It really is, just because it's so, the plot line through it is such a standalone for this book, right? It's not something that's going to cross over to the next book. So it's not like I can tell you what happened before and estimate what's coming next. That's not how this works. So just trust me when I say it's weird. I will also tell you that the art style reminds me of those drawings that you had friends do in high school, where it's just them going nuts with like a pencil, and all of a sudden like a face shows up. You know what I mean? Like that, it's that sort of art style. It's not kind of your traditional comic art style. And so it really does lend itself to some darkness and some weirdness in this book.
Okay. This is Zach Thompson with Jock doing art. The art is well represented on the front cover there. It takes place after the death of a child, so trigger warning. This guy on the front cover shows up at the graveside service, and he is unwanted. So you can automatically tell that the family is like, and everybody else doesn't want him around. It's clear that he's perceived to be part of the reason why the kiddo is dead. And what you find out is that, so he notices that there's no casket, and there's like this weird urn thing. He's holding it in his hands on the front cover there. And asks his, I guess, ex, or at least the kid's mom, where's our son's body? And she was like, well, see, because of your horrible acts, our child was in the hospital for a very long time, and it accrued a lot of bills. And a person approached us and said we can donate his body to science, and it would take care of the medical bills. And you guys can figure out what's bad about that based on the title. It gets you to an end point in this when you're like, oh no, this just is terrible. So there you go. If you don't like body horror, then it's probably not a book for you. But I'm super intrigued to learn more about this guy. Like, what did he do? What was the problem that led to this kiddo getting damaged enough to die? I like heroes that are not heroes. Where's my son's body? Funny story about that. It's not funny at all. This is one that's gonna it's a dark thing. Yeah. Mad Cave is continuing to kill it.
Yeah, the urn kind of looks like the blue Power Ranger helmet. And I will say this: this is two books in a row on this list with trigger warnings.
Yeah.
Just know. All right. I bet Bob didn't give you a trigger warning.
This was 97 pages. I know it says number 1 on that cover, but this was this was the whole trade. This was
Yeah.
the whole thing. So this got skimmed. Right off the bat, this was a hashtag not that bad, from what I read. It's teenage friends who, as kids, played in a graveyard, playing hide and seek, stuff like that. As teenagers in high school, they're still hanging out in the graveyard, doing things you would think teenage kids would be doing in a graveyard at night. This is kind of like, it feels almost like Scooby-Doo-ish. I mean, it's R.L. Stine, as you can see from the cover, so think like Scooby-Doo and Goosebumps.
So Fear Street.
No. I kind of wish it was. I kind of wish it was more Fear Street than Goosebumps. There's like a ton of red herrings. They make you think that the strange occurrences that start happening are this person. And then like, well, maybe it's this person. Then there's another one in there. And I checked out the end. I went ahead and skimmed to the end just so I could kind of see what was going on. And it felt a bit rushed how the main conflict of the book ends. But then we get hit with a, hey, the story's not exactly over yet. It's not here, but it's not over yet. This is one that I might have to go back and reread the entire thing to appreciate it more. But yeah, again, it's a hashtag not that bad. It wasn't like terrible, but I don't think that I read enough of it to really get a sense of what was happening. If you're out there and you've picked, or you're planning on picking this up, let me know what you thought. So like I said, I'm going to reread it again, but just kind of so for me.
I wish I would have read this one. All right. Helen of Windhorn number 4. Again, this feels like it should be the end of the series, and it isn't. You have Helen of Windhorn, who in issue 3, like, she goes to the other world with her grandfather, and it's like, oh crap, there's this whole other world with mythical creatures and crazy bad guys and skeleton armies and things like that. And she comes back and realizes that that's what she wants to be a part of. So this is like the scene in Rocky 3 where he's running through the mountains carrying a log and he falls in the snow and like he's lifting hay carts like to work out because he's in Russia. This is that.
No, I got the song stuck in my head.
Right. This is Helen hanging from tree branches. This is running wind sprints. This is learning to fight. Rocky 4, Rocky 3. Okay,
My
which
God.
is the one? Okay, every Rocky movie. There.
Oh, Sean just called you out.
I
So
thought
did
Rocky
Gaz.
4 was Tommy Gunn, but I can't remember. They all kind
Right,
of
they've done 9 of these freaking movies. It doesn't really matter. Anyway, and in every one of them, there's this sequence of like Rocky lifting things he shouldn't need to lift. I'm gonna give you all a timeout, because I have the power tonight. So like he's lifting things he doesn't need to be lifting. This is what this book is. Until you get 3/4 of the way through the book, and there's a turn. Something bad happens off camera, and we don't really know what it is. But at the end of the book, Helen is having this thing that she has worked so hard for taken away from her. But this issue and the last couple of issues have been like bookended by like scenes from Comic-Con where they're finding the books written by this character that keeps being referred to that I haven't figured out how it's related to Helen of Windhorn yet. So it looks like going forward, we're going to be following that that arc, that thread, and not necessarily the Helen thread. So I'll be interested to see what's next.
They're gonna sing the whole song. comments. I love you guys so much. All right, this one was wicked cool. So this is Mark Spear's Monsters. It looks like he, if I understood what it says, like he wrote and did the art and everything for this. Someone else did the lettering, but it's all in these really cool, like primary color, like super bright. The entire interior is like that, except for there's a part of it which pulls all the color out and goes black and white, which is cool because we're talking about this is all Universal monster stuff. So it feels all of a sudden like you're in a cool old movie. But it's essentially Dracula showing up and just laying waste to people. And Van Helsing has got a big plan that he's put in place to try to like fooled you. I got you, Dracula, which has a big twist at the end, which is awesome. So just know if you like, eye candy art, you like Universal monsters, even though it's just mostly vampire and werewolf for this one. There are a ton of, go and look. There are a ton of really beautiful covers. Quite a few of them are homage-y. One of them has, I think Van Helsing holding a cross, like a silver cross, and you can see Dracula reflected in it. So it's like the Wolverine 3 homage. It's just, they're all, each of them is better than the other one. Like there's one that's like Gauntlet related, but it's, you just like, you're like, I know this cover from somewhere. But this is one that I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, variants. I'm about the stuff that's inside, but I would collect all the covers for this one just because they're so beautiful. What company is this one? This one was that Mad Cave again?
No,
that is Keen Spot.
Y'all have no idea how hard it was to choose a cover, but I chose that one for the group. So glad everybody liked it. All right. Now, is this called The Mass Mocker?
Uh-huh.
Okay, that's how you say it. All right.
Well, no. You need more phlegm.
Oh, I can't. Yeah.
Macher. Because it's Yiddish.
Okay. What a weird.
I should have just told you I would read this one. You had to pick something else.
What a weird, fun book this was, though. Like, you should still read this. This was such a weird but fun book. So you have this like failing actor who owes $5 of rent to his landlord. He couldn't come up with $5, and the landlord's really wanting that $5. This feels like it's set in like the 30s and 40s. So maybe that $5. I mean, that's half a house payment back then. He's going to this audition, and he gets a flat. And some lady comes out of this big building. She's like, "Hey, can you wrestle?" And he's like, "Excuse me?" She goes, "Can you wrestle? Come here." And some wrestler, I guess, no shows. So she's like, $5 for you. So he goes, "Sure enough." So our main character he feels like a legend in his own mind type anyway. So this is just, he decides he's going to wrestle now. Okay. This is definitely a read it for yourself book. And just to sweeten the deal on why you should read this, this is a very small spoiler. The story is being narrated by a character in the story that is not a person. You find this at the very end of the book. And when I did, I don't know why it was so funny to me, but I was laughing back here while I was reading it. I was just like, wait, what? What? Huh? So I definitely need to read issue 2 because I need to know what is up with this particular thing narrating the story. So y'all, this was a fun one. It's crazy. Check it out.
Hey, Kyle, what is the going rate for wrestling?
Depends on who you are and how much you actually can draw. But
So $5 and a hot dog is about right. JJ's right.
for me, yes. For some of the guys I was hanging out with this weekend, no. Shout out to the Godfather, aka and Papa Shango. Hung out with both versions of the same guy this weekend, and Mickey James. Anyway, so Lawful is a story that I've been reading now for 4 issues or 3. I read first 2, skipped 3, and now I'm into 4. And what's interesting about this book is that it's this society where, so long as you don't sin, you are normal.
Mm-hmm.
So long as you live lawfully, you're normal. If you don't, you start to develop monstrous qualities. And our main character is growing scales and horns, which is kind of cool, I think. Come to find out that the champion, the best of the best, right? The goodest of the good, is actually a real monster, but has a potion that will undo his monstrousness. Because the lie is more important than the truth in this regard. And that's the end of issue 2. I don't know what happened in issue 3. I really don't. But you come into issue 4, and our main character, who is like tried to live his whole life to be pious and had like 3 little scales for helping his friend who was not necessarily a good person, like full body scale armor. Like full body scale armor. And he's been caught doing this. So part of the reason he was trying to be good was that his mother was sick. And as long as he was good, she stayed on his insurance and could get the medicine she needed. Well, they get kicked out of the city, and come to find out, maybe the good wasn't so good after all. And their life now may be good, or maybe the start of something much bigger. So it's an interesting issue to be in, right? It's that this thing I've lived my whole life with turns out to be a lie, and now I know it's a lie. And okay, what do I do with this information now that I'm outside of the system? And then there's this big kind of emotional crash at the very end that will, I think, again, send us over the cliff into the next phase of this story.
Lethal Protectors. Okay, so this is Silver Sable there on the front, putting together a cool symbiote team to participate in the Venom War. Because remember, the entire point of the Venom War is both Eddie Brock and his son Dylan both believe that if one or the other of them ends up with the Venom symbiote, that it'll be world ending. That it's going to fulfill a prophecy that means everything is going to be destroyed. So they're both trying to get to Venom. And that's everyone's choosing sides. And all the symbiotes are getting crazy. So this puts together all of a bunch of really cool side symbiotes that have been introduced over time. You get to see the actual like heroes that they're attached to. There's one that I don't think I've ever seen before. So that one's new. So it'd be like first appearances. And then I guess you can probably guess the big twist that happens in this one if everyone is taking on a symbiote and you've got someone on the front cover that doesn't have one yet. Spoiler. So if you like first appearances, this one's got really cool one. And it's part of the bigger storyline. You don't have to, I'll be honest, you don't have to have this one for the Venom War. But if these characters start showing up in the main book, then you probably will want to have this one to fill in those gaps.
What's up, Phil?
Alrighty, y'all. So another trifecta of gruesome stories, including a mortician who gets too close to the bodies in the morgue, and maybe some of
Explain.
yeah, well, she's having, she talks to them. They're like her friends.
That's not what I was thinking you were saying.
No. I mean, could have gone that way, but no. Okay. You find out that maybe some of the dearly departed, they're not as departed as we think. Then you get a vampire who escapes a sinking ship and brings snacks with her.
Oh.
And I mean survivors. That's what I meant to say, not snacks. I meant to say survivors. Snacks. And she proposes an unconventional way for them to stay alive. And then finally, time is circular, and be careful how you were to deal with a crossroads demon. Uh, as a fan of Tales from the Crypt, Tales from the Dark Side, and Twilight Zone, I've been loving this series. Horror fans, all our horror fans in the chat right now, if you haven't got in on this, which I don't know why you wouldn't, you need to get on this. Seriously, put this box on your pull list, or put this box on your pull list. Put this book on your pull list.
I've been holding off on buying these because I'm seeing our friend Torma next week, and he's got a stack of like variants and random covers of the EC books from them for me. So I'm just gonna spend a whole day reading nothing but EC next week. Okay, Kosher Mafia 2. You know what I hate? Illinois Nazis. You know what I hate more than Illinois Nazis? Ohio Nazis. And we're having a real problem with them now, but I'm not going to get political. But ironically, they're having a real problem with them in this book too. In fact, you find out that this is in the preludes to World War II era, right? This is the late 30s, very early 40s. And a lot of people are scared to run up against the Germans or the Italians because it doesn't make political sense. But in Cleveland, you have the Kosher Nostra, who are literally at diametric opposites with these people. And this is a story of an enforcer from the Kosher Nostra, or Murder Inc., or however you want to put it, and a bookkeeper, who are the only two people who really see this problem coming, and they're taking the lack of the law, because they're in the mob, into their own hands, and trying to make the community safe. And in this issue, they do good cop, bad cop, where good cop is still shooting a guy in the chest, if that helps you know what bad cop is. So, really, really fun book. David Hazan is crushing it. And I am feeling really connected to this book because it happens in the book, but it happened in real life not that far from me.
Spirits of Vengeance. All right.
There are too many spirits, not enough vengeance.
Well, there's a little bit of vengeance in this one. This one's kind of interesting. I don't know if I know this character that's at the very top. That's the vengeance spirit that we're dealing with in this book. I don't think the other ones actually appear. But we kind of meet them as like there's some kids fooling around in a field, and there's a skeleton. It looks like basically like a party skeleton in a scarecrow position that is this thing with the little long fangy parts. So this is about them. One of them gets out of control and kind of like gets him woken up. And then it's the rest of the story is kind of like why he's there. What's the, like, why is he not out doing vengeance-y things? How long has he been there? And I mean, I think the story's cool, but I don't know where it's going yet. And I don't also know enough about Ghost Rider stuff to know whether this character has ever appeared before or if this is a whole brand new dude. Because I only know like Denny Ketch and all the rest of those guys. So this one is interesting. There's a bunch of other books out this week that you should focus on unless you're a Ghost Rider person, I would say.
All right. This was my fluff one. This was my let's take it down a notch. But I love the art. The story is fun, but man, it felt like there was a minimum of 4 or 5 characters on every panel of this book. There are a lot of characters in this one. It's another racing issue, and it's so bright, it's so colorful. It grabs you while you're reading it. It's it feels like the inside of my brain because it's just like a million miles a second, just bright shiny colors just everywhere. It's action packed, but it's still light and funny. Uh, and Sonic is in this, but he's not the main focus. Um, it's more than just Sonic fighting Robotnik. Like it's deeper than that with these other characters that they're kind of bringing to the forefront. Um, I would tell you if you're a Sonic fan, this is definitely a good pickup. Just know it's not a Sonic centered story, uh, but still really really good and honestly just a nice break from the stuff I usually read. So if you're a Sonic fan, 100% pick this up.
Ooh.
So a while back, I made a statement on this show, and then Tom Walls called me out on YouTube, and then called me out multiple other places for being wrong because I didn't see this solicitation while doing my research because I'm a schmo. I have been excited for this book ever since Tom called me out, and with good reason. This is the story that begins to bridge the gap between the Armageddon game and The Last Ronin.
Oh.
You're starting to see the beginning of The Last Ronin and the fallout of what happens to the turtles after the Armageddon game. But there's still quite a bit of time to cover. So I don't know how this is going to do that. And I don't know that this is going to. I don't know that Tom's real intent was to bridge that gap. What I know is that sure looks like Last Ronin. And that sure looks like Armageddon game. And they reference Armageddon game, so we're going to see. This is a turtle and a dinosaur on the road, on a motorcycle, basically being Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse. And sort of explaining how they got to that point. There's two stories in here. There's the Tom Waltz story, and then there's a backup shorter story that I didn't have time to read because we're doing 27 books this week. I was just trying to get through some stuff. So anyhow, but you find out a little bit about the world that the turtles are living in, and at the end, someone you'll recognize from other turtle stories, who is maybe big and metal and has a head and maybe a turtle on his back, shows up and asks our main character if they would like to break into Area 51. Sold. Shut up and take my money, IDW. Like, I'm the guy who still tells the story about watching Rob Lowe on the Lowe Files try to get into Area 51. And if anybody can do it, it's a Ninja Turtle. So, like I said, the dinosaur is called Pepperoni.
I love Low Files, especially when they did the remote viewing and actually did it well.
Nice. Nope. Right. Rob Lowe trying to talk his way into Area 51 is the high point of that show.
He's like, but I'm Rob Lowe. Okay, sorry. Rob Lowe. Deathlock. You don't have to know anything. This is a perfect introduction to the character. I love that they have so it's basically a guy who's been, he's being ruled over by the cyborgy components of himself. So imagine if you had an onboard computer that was super sassy to you. My favorite part is when he's like supposed to be going somewhere. He's like, the thing he keeps on saying to him is like, return to the route, which is like what your GPS thing still says to you when you're doing maps. So anyway, it's great. You'll like it. It's cool.
Make a U-turn.
Make a U-turn. Yeah, I hate that one.
All right, next up.
So I fell off reading this series, so I'm totally lost. But this issue introduced me to some cool new characters, I guess, unless they've been in the other issues. We see Negaduck has been captured, so he's trying to escape, and of course he does. And then he plans his revenge on the folks that captured him. Goes without saying, I dig most of the Disney Dynamite books, but there's something about the Darkwing stuff, all the spinoffs, all three of them. Darkwing Duck, this, and Justice Ducks. I hear the characters, or at least I know like I hear their voices saying this dialogue. All these issues feel like episodes to me. My only gripe, the only small gripe I have, is Negaduck is not living up to his villainous potential. I don't think he's that bad of a duck. Like I said, I need him to be a little bit more mustache twirling evil, but outside of that, love the book.
Okay. So, did anybody see the terrible movie Borderlands?
I thought it was fun. Stop it.
Not yet. I'm going to though.
Okay. If they had made this movie, it would have done significantly better at the box office. Because this is just game night with the Borderlands gang, issue 2. They are playing Dungeons and Dragons, and Tiny Tina is the game master. And nobody wants to play with Claptrap, so they make him like, if you've played D&D, they make him the identify spell, basically. And it's just Claptrap making jokes, but it is a really good kind of wholesome family sort of story set in this world that is, Borderlands. So I'm enjoying it, even though I'm not really into Borderlands, for the D&D aspects of it. But it's a little thin on, I would say actual Borderlands, and more on actual Dungeons and Dragons.
Dazzler. Okay, so this takes place right in continuity with everything else that's going on. Mutants are still sitting smack dab in the middle of the crosshairs. By the way, Gail Simone, mutants. So she basically is just trying to do a concert. Her album is like going off the charts, but she keeps on getting advice from her, I don't know, agent person that she needs to do as little mutanting things as possible, no sparkle fingers or whatever. And they try to like hire her drummer, who's a shark girl, by giving her like a cool collar that makes her look like a human. So anyway, it's real difficult. There's people outside. They're like, yay, we love mutants, and we go Dazzler. And then there's people who are like, mutants are the devil or whatever. And then a baddie shows up in the middle of the concert. And so Dazzler has to figure out a way to fight said baddie and not let anyone know she's using mutie powers. But she's not real good at that. She's out and proud. So she has a costume change in the middle, which she looks so great. I hope Tay-Tay gets to play her, because that's the thing I was thinking the whole time reading this book. I'm like, look.
The fact that they didn't do a Chapel Roan and Taylor Swift variant of this is the least Marvel thing.
All right, y'all. First thing I noticed was the tremendous art in this book. I'm probably way off base because I don't know technical terms for art, but it feels like a mix of old school, new school, and kind of some like pop art effect. Really cool art. It's all throughout the book. It looks amazing. So we start the story off with our villain pretty much monologuing about dragging the immortals' power, their darkness into the light, or something like that, villain stuff. And then we jump straight into the action. We're in the faraway. Galad, the Eternal Warrior, and Tama the Geomancer are being chased by a dinosaur. And he's trying to eat them. It does get his jaws on Galad, but then gets a really bad case of indigestion. This book is very bloody, by the way. Now, I'm going to leave it there because I could talk about this book, this universe, for hours. They introduce so many characters. It's like boom, boom, boom. I spent most of the time being like, yes, they're in. She's in. He's in. Sounding like a loon back here in my office by myself, Like I said, very character heavy, but not forced, done very naturally. Y'all get on the ground floor. This is going to be wild.
JD, you're hilarious, by the way.
That about sums it up.
Mm-hmm.
It's the gooderest. Multiverses, I'll just tell you that this is like the best of all the possible like hey, there's a video game that's going to put together DC characters and characters from all these other shows. We need to make a book that makes sense for why these characters would get together. And it is the very best version of what you could imagine. Really love it. The art is incredible, and the way it introduces the crossover of these characters is cool. All of the main DC characters there start having visions with kind of like cool symbols that are part of them, and it's them trying to unravel why they're having these waking dreams that they keep on seeing the symbols. By the way, the symbols are kind of a witch head, a star-bellied child, and a rabbit. You can imagine. They're portents of characters on the front.
I don't like that Steven Universe is in the same world as Batman.
Sorry.
All right, so I had to skim this one in order to get here on time, but the writer is written by Josh Gad. Again, if you read it in Josh Gad's voice, especially his role from Book of Mormon voice, that makes it really nice. But this is the story of a writer who is secretly the master of the golem of Jewish mythology, and who can do a lot of things with that. And there are people trying to take down his family, and it's the battle between him and, turns out, his family, to save his family from his family, about his family. And there's just a lot of really cool, interesting mythology that isn't the normal mythology you get in comics, where it's normally Norse or Greek or Roman. This is a little bit more of that Jewish mythology, a little bit more of that sort of Middle European mythology, or even Middle Eastern mythology, that comes from the cradle of existence kind of thing. So very interesting take. I need to go back through and reread the first 2 issues and read the third one all in one sitting, just because so much happens in the first 2 issues, and then this issue feels like it slows down. But I may just be misremembering. So that is my goal for one of my other readings this week.
Okay. This issue specifically deals with trying to get the Brainiac Queen out of John's head. Most of the issue is kind of like what is real for him. So you, from your point of view, aren't 100% certain. It looks like the Amazons are helping him purge himself of all remaining Brainiac Queen. A lot of it is him having text conversations with his boyfriend, but even that you start to doubt whether it is actual real. So this is a heartbreaking issue, totally important to the Absolute Power storyline. You will not be sad about buying this. It is a nice thick book also. And Amanda Waller, you are truly evil for messing around with him and Jay. Sorry.
All right. That's going to do it. Real quick, everybody, I am going to be a little bit AWOL for the next few weeks. Jay will be covering for me. But in the meantime, I will remind you that if you are traveling like I am, or you are anywhere and you need to find a comic shop nearby to you, go to comicshoplocator.com, type in the numbers of the place where you are, and find a comic shop nearby to you, and then go to there. I am visiting a comic shop that I have never been to before, and all the times I've been to Baltimore, this time to drop off some books that I'm taking to them. So just know that you can find these places on comicshoplocator.com. comicshoplocator.com. Stay tuned after this for Mint Hunter with James, and then later on Kicking It with Henri. Honest Henri from Chicago will be here to sell you his books. And if you're an Honest Henri from Chicago buyer and you have an outstanding invoice, pay your invoice so he stops whining to me. But if you're not going there, head over to CBSN and check out Miss Jen's show, where she has tomorrow's books today. She maybe will have some of those covers you all were looking for. I'm just saying, but I can't say, because you should watch James' show too. So 2 screens for the next hour or so. And we will see everybody next time here when we skim it in a minute or something to that effect. I don't remember. Later.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.